think, so I think that everybody has different challenges in the garden, and it really depends on, this is vegetable garden and any of your garden, because you might be dealing with deer just eating your pansies, or you might be dealing with rabbits coming in and eating your lettuce or eating your peas. But it really depends on what kind of gardener you are, how savvy you are, and really some of the strategies you might be willing to go through. I was mentioning to my intern, Tori Hudson, that the last 2 nights, my wife and I have gone outside and have eaten 1 strawberry each. And we kind of cheered like we were cheering our champagne glasses to the strawberries. But for a while there, we were having squirrels and chipmunks just eating the green berries. And I think the one thing that you have to remember is, with any kind of wildlife challenge, is what else is there for these critters to eat out there. When they're very hungry, it's the beginning of the season, or it's the end of winter and there isn't much around, they're going to be gobbling up whatever you have. Okay, so you know, things that you kind of are dealing with, deer, rabbits, birds. I know birds have 2 feet, not really 4-footed thieves. Chipmunks, other critters. Just like what I was mentioning, be cognizant of where you're located. What are your biggest challenges? Who you might be dealing with? Who are your allies, like this fox in the garden, in our yard? Who you might be challenged with, because deer, we have more deer in our county and our 400 square foot area than there was during colonial times. So during George Washington's time, we had less, deer than we have now. Just some deer damage there. And deer is all about habits. Deer, habits. You'll see a trail of them browsing through the buffet each day. Deer seriously can cause and produce offspring for about 5 years. They have 1 fawn the first year, and then they twin or have triplets each pregnancy after. They hang out together with their fawns, the does, and the bucks are often solitary. So they often, or you might see a buck traveling with several females with a harem. When you're dealing with deer in the garden, one of the biggest things to remember is that these are large animals. You might be needing a fence. You also might need some other challenges. There are things that people will do as far as motion detectors, all kinds of other things. Squirrels live about 2 to 3 years. They usually have about 2 litters a year. They each in their litter, they produce 3 young per litter, and they can have 6 to 54 in a lifetime. They want some things, strategies or what have you in the garden, is harvest some things early, like your tomatoes, or maybe even you pick your strawberries a little early, letting them ripen on the counter. You can put a cage around the plant like you see here. Encourage predators. If you have a dog, encourage that dog to spend some time outside and put its scent around in your yard. Or you might have a cat who will help you hunt some critters, or at least keep them away, scare them away. Rabbits, they have no mercy. That's all I have to say. They can have up to 4 litters per year. So then in each one, they're going to have 4 to 5 bunnies each, and so that can be up to 14 in a year. After 15 to 20 days, these critters are on their own, and in 3 to 6 months, they can have their own young. So they're very quick to become mature. For rabbits, you want to reduce areas for burrowing. You want to reduce areas that have heaps of sticks and leaves, places that they can burrow and make a nest. Fill in old burrows. Plant scented plants like herbs. They dislike asparagus, leeks, onions, potatoes, rhubarb, squash, and tomatoes because of their scent or because of their prickly feeling. They're very sensitive with their nose and with their whiskers. No plant is truly deer or rabbit proof. And I say this because when food gets scarce in late winter, if they're hungry, they're going to eat anything. And deer, they will eat daffodils, even though they're known to be avoiding daffodils. They will still, they will still go after bird feeders, other wildlife feeding stations, etc., and be brought in or drawn into your yard. Other things that you might use as strategies for your yard is scare tactics, things that have motion sensors. Battery operated is recommended over solar powered, and this is because a lot of solar power things are not going to work very well in the winter time when there's less sun or if it's a cloudy day. You want to move those scare things each day, each few days, and use a combination of tactics. There's mechanical things, inflatable things, infrared at night. Also use netting. Not always a win-win. Sometimes you can end up catching birds or other things like snakes in this kind of netting. This picture right here, this netting along this structure is very tight. And this one that you see here with the blueberry inside is a cage where you can grow those blueberries inside and completely encase that shrub. Fences, you want to have at least something that is 8 feet tall for deer. You may even choose to use a fence inside of a fence. Some people have electric fences. Some people use electric fences around their vegetable garden. And it's just really important to be careful with those kinds of things. There's also this thing called an almost invisible fence, and some master gardeners have tried this out. This is actually an article on our master gardener website, fairfaxgardening.org. And deer have horrible vision, so you typically will see this fishing line that is wound around larger, taller stakes and bamboo and make 5 parallel rungs of line, like you see here. And that will actually keep the deer from pushing through that area. They can't see the line, but will push along there and will just move away from the area. Other things you can do, you can get creative with other deterrents. These are just baskets from a old refrigerator. Of course, have things grow through chicken wire so things don't dig in into areas. Or other strategies might be to grow herbs, scented things, prickly, hairy foliage along the borders of the garden, things like marigolds, catmint, or bee balm, and coffee grounds will also deter rabbits. Other things that you can do, releasing beneficial insects in your garden and adding plants for pollinators are just going to increase your beneficials in the garden and reduce the number of pests in the garden. There are also plenty of animal repellents around. There's things like this predator dispenser, which is a urine dispenser that is not for anyone's urine, but this fake urine, like the coyote urine or other things that actually detracts the wildlife from your garden. I would say that the smell is putrid, so just remember where you're going to put that is also, you're going to smell that in your garden for a while, so just remember that. Some other things you can do is, as a last resort, plant more plants. That's some folks' strategies, just having enough for you and having enough for the wildlife. Encourage predators, and enjoy your harvest when it's time to enjoy the harvest. So with that, I'll stop sharing my